Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Fun Stuff Friday and we have some fun stuff. So these are the Jasart colored pencils that were sent to me as a gift by Mandy. Thank you. And they're very pretty. There's 3 sets of add-on colored pencils. So there's a rainbow set, so it's the blues, greens, yellows, pinks, and a purple. And then there's the love set. That's what I'm calling it anyway. And it's all your pinks and your reds, some peach tones. And then there's the aquatic set, which is your blues, your whites, and a creamy tone as well. And they're all 12 piece sets on those. And then we have this one, which is a 72 set. And they're very, very basic. They're a black barrel pencil with Jasart color on them. These are manufactured, I do believe, in China, but they are Jasart is an Australian company. Let's see if there's any information on the back. So it says, does not contain rainforest wood. Yes, it's made in the public in China, basically the PRC. They're an artist quality colored pencils designed to perform color laydown for 100% coverage. Brilliant color offerings with smooth application, we'll see. Strong break resistant leads, we'll see. High quality wood for smooth sharpening, also we'll see. And centered leads fully bonded to the wood to prevent breakage, which is great. I love the fact that they have bonded the cores so that they don't just fall out if they're broken. That's always annoying. I have done the swatch, so we will watch the swatch. So of course, grab your cup of coffee, sit back and relax, and we'll get that swatch all set up here for you. I will be watching the swatch with you, and I will be, of course, right back. So sit back, relax, grab your coffee. This will take a few minutes. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. Now, as you can see, the bottom areas here, starting here, we've got the blue set, I do believe 12 and 3, 6, 9, 12 to there. And then we've got our rainbow type set here, and we've got our red set here. The top 3 rows is the set that's in the tin. Now the set in the tin, it's at least in the color family. There are a few pencils that I would move around, like this one here and this one here. But all in all, they're pretty much in their color family. I will be, when I do the full swatch of moving things around, I may end up, well, I will end up putting these 3 sets mixed into this set. So we will see how that goes. As I was swatching, I did find that the Jasart in the tin, sorry about the train, it's a little loud. The Jasart in the tin are a much harder pencil than the Jasart that are in the sleeves. The ones in the sleeves, they're still a hard pencil, but they're a little bit softer. They feel a little bit smoother than the ones in the tin. Let's play with them a little bit. Well, let's look at the swatch first, and then we'll play with them a little bit. So I'm going to switch you over to the close-up camera so that you can see the colors a little bit better. We of course have white into the yellows, into the oranges, into our reds. It has a really good selection of red. Red is one of my go-to colors for a lot of things. Reds and pinks. It does have a good selection of skin tones, a lighter skin tone section, and it does have some darker skin tones that will be able to meld together to create all ranges of skin tones. It has a fantastic set of pinks and a really good set of purples. You know, we have our pinks into our red violets into this one here on the very end. I would move as well. I feel that's more pink than purple, so I would move that one. And then we have our blue violets here into our blues. This aquatic green kind of color I would move up here as well towards the more aquatic colors. It's kind of a gray blue aquatic green color. Seaweed kind of color. And then we have our darker blues, and we go into our aquatic greens, the mint green and the lighter sea foam kind of colors. And then we have a couple of the darker sea foam kind of colors there, like oceanic, I guess you'd call it. And then we have our light greens and then a couple of dark greens. This blue I don't believe belongs there, and I will move it. And then we go into our browns, and we've got a really dark brown here and down here as well. We have a olive kind of brown green here, and then we have a brown olive, which brown yellow olive, and these two here are to me a lighter skin tone kind of colors, so those I would probably put up with the peaches. And then we have our light sand tones, our red brick tones, and then we go into our dark brown tones, our medium brown, and then our darker brown tones. These two here is a gold and a silver metallic, and then we go into our grays, and it looks to me like they have the grays set up for warm grays and then cool grays. Then we have another dark blue that I would definitely put up with the blues and our black. So all in all, it's a fairly good balanced set for what is in the 72 set all by itself. Now there is the blue set where there's another white. Now this white here I did find to be more white than the original tin. Then we've got another cream tone here, and these two here look very similar to the same color. And then we've got some blues, some more like light blues into the aquatic blues. And I was comparing them, and I don't think, well, maybe these two are really similar to each other as well. And then we have this one here, which is lighter than this one, or darker than this one here. So it gives you a good transition line. And then we have some darker brown areas here as well. And it's sort of like a purple gray. I use this kind of color and this kind of color up here. Where is it? Oh, I have to find it now. This kind of color, this purpley gray color. I use those as shadow colors in my skin tones. And then we start on the next set, which is the gray, the purple, some more lighter blues. And I don't see any of those lighter blues anywhere in the set. Now these sets are not supposed to have, from what I understand, they're not supposed to cross over. But and I will test that, but at a later time. I think they're a few shades off. These ones here seem very close to, well, this one here is darker, but this one here seems very close to that one. But I think this one's darker. So, yeah. And then we've got a really, really nice grass green there. And a couple more peach tones, which are a darker peach tone. So it's much darker than the ones in the set. Same with this one, it's much darker than the ones in the set. And then we've got some nice light peach and light pink tones there. And then in the red tone, the red set, we have a great, really, really light pink, and then another beige. And this beige is a little bit darker. It's more of an ivory than a cream, where these are more of a cream. And then we've got another dark peach and almost a rosy peach there. And then some more pinks. And then into some reds and some red violets, into a dark, almost brick dust kind of red there. And that's the set. Let's switch it back over to the main camera here. And we're going to grab our circle machine. Hold on. Because I didn't think of grabbing it first, because my brain doesn't work today. And we're going to make some circles. We're going to test out some of these colors. First of all, in the smaller sets. So we'll grab a blue, a yellow, and a red from each of these sets. So I'll grab a yellow from this set. Of course I'll. Now none of these have names or numbers on them, so if you ever do get a set of these, you will have to name and number them. So this is from the rainbow set. I grabbed a yellow from the rainbow set. I'm going to grab a blue from the blue set. Just going to make sure I get a blue. Give me a blue. There's a blue from the blue set. And a red from the red set. From the rosy set. Okay, so we've got a red, a blue, and a yellow. And these are the add-on sets. These are not the 72 set. We'll be testing those separately, just to verify differences. Alright, so let's first of all grab our yellow here, and we're going to do a water test on them. So we're going to, there's one layer, 2 layers, 3 layers, 4 layers. Okay, so that gave a good blend with the 4 layers, a good level of colorage. And as you can see, they are quite soft. It did wear down the tip quite quickly. We will also do a sharpen test with the doll and see how well they sharpen as well. Okay, so there's yellow. Let's do some blue. Can't remember which size I used. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. And the blue did much better on coverage than with 4. And that's actually really good. Both did pretty good on coverage. I'm just looking at it in the light. And then with the red, and of course we will grab some reds, yellows, and blues out of the other set as well, out of the main set. And we will do this as well with that set, just to make sure that there's not a huge amount of difference. The reason why I will be doing that is because I feel a difference in the pigment as it is. I feel that these ones are softer. The other ones are a little bit harder, a little bit drier. Okay, so I've got a good level of pigment on the page there. Now I'm going to grab my water brush here and I'm going to dust all of that off just to make sure that there's no remnants, no mush on the page. Now when I looked up the when I was given the information, because I didn't look it up myself, a friend of mine looked it up. Mandy looked it up because I asked her. When I read through the information on the specs for the set, it states that there's binders and waxes. It does not state whether or not it is a heavily waxed bound product or if there is a heavy oil binding of the product. So we will find out. And they are wax. I'll switch you over to the close-up so that you can see why I say that. And see the water. They do not move at all. Not even a smidge. And the water actually builds up and sits there pooled on top of the pigment. So they are definitely a wax-based pencil. All right, so let's do a smudge test. So the water test, they absolutely do not move with water. So let's do this smudge test. And we'll do it over here where it's dry with the same pencils. We'll do this set of pencils on one line, and then we'll do the next part with the other with the original base brand, base set, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So there's 1, there's 2. So with these being a wax-based pencil, you don't have to layer them. You can smush them. So what I mean by smush is I mean you can go heavy-handed and drop your pigment on the page. It's not going to hurt the pencil at all. Where with a oil-based, if you don't layer properly, you will find that you don't get a good blend on your pigment, on your color. Okay, so let's try that one. Let's see if it smudges. And I put down a heavy layer. I put a lot of pressure on that. dulled down the pencil, and it's not going anywhere. There is no movement. So let's try a darker color so the yellow does not smudge. And I'm going to press hard. I'm going to put down a lot of, oops, too hard. Don't press too hard, you'll break your pencil. Put down a lot of pigment. I'm going to dust that off because, yeah, I pressed too hard and I snapped the pencil. So there's a lot of pigment down there and barely any movement. And I think the movement is because of the fact that I put a lot of pigment down and killed the tooth of the paper and snapped the pencil. So there's a touch of pigment movement on the red. Now I'm not going to press as hard with the blue so I don't break the pencil. Here's our chance to to sharpen the pencils, I guess. Alright, so here's the blue, and it does move just a little bit. So the yellow doesn't move much of anything. The red does move, and so does the blue. So definitely something that you might want to think of. It doesn't move as much as other pencils I have seen smudge, but they do still move a little bit. So let's do our 3-color blend and see if we can create orange, green, and orange and green. So we've got our blue. Let's give them all a sharpen, and I'll show you how they look when they're sharpened. So there's three cranks in the sharpener, and it's a perfect sharpen. I like my pencils sharp. I know that a lot of people say that using a duller pencil is preferable for blending and that sort of thing. I don't find that actually the case. Now the red pencil I should have gave one more crank to because I did break that one. So let's give that one just one more crank. And there we have it. Alright, so there's all 3 of them, nice and sharp again. And we're going to do a blend. So a blend to me, just so that we have clarification on what I mean by a blend. A blend to me is taking multiple colors, whether it be the same tone, same color but different tones and shades, or multiple different colors and combining them with either layering or smushing. That to me is a blend. So with these being a wax pencil, the red is a little bit brittle from what I'm seeing here. You can definitely layer wax pencils, but sometimes they smush better than they layer. So we're going to put down a layer of this, extend it out just a little bit so that we get that invisible edge, hopefully. And then we're going to do the same thing with the yellow, and we're going to combine them and extend this out so that when we go over it with the green, we'll have something to combine into. Now I'm not seeing a huge amount of color change between the two. I was kind of hoping for a bit more orange, but that happens. But as you can see, there is a bit of a graduation between the two. Now we're going to go in with the blue, and we're going to go into the yellow, trying not to get my hand too far on the camera so that it doesn't keep buffering and moving around. go. So as you can see, between the blue and the yellow, there's not as much of a transition color either. So let's go back over it with the yellow and see if we can combine those colors in to each other. To make a good combination. So I can definitely combine them together. They do smush together quite nicely, and I can continue to add more color to it. It's not giving me the green I wanted, but it does combine. You can definitely see where they smush together a little bit. I'm glad there's a lot of oranges and greens in here, because I'm not able to, with this combination, not able to get a good, what I consider a good green and a good orange. They do create it, but it does take a lot more work than I would want to do. But they do create it. Now let's see if we can eliminate the edges. So let's start with our blue. And I'm going to go a little harder up here. And we'll do a stripe of blue. And then we'll bring that down. And then we'll grab our red. And the red and blue combine quite nicely. The red and blue give a pretty good purple. Now I'm not fantastic with wax-based pencils because I have issues with smushing. I don't know how to smush right. Alright. So I had to smush a little bit harder on with the yellow for it to combine into that red. So let's see if we can combine those lines with the blender pencil. Now the blender pencil I use to bring colors together sometimes and get rid of that hard line in between them. But I also use it to eliminate the white spot on a page. So where I have a lot of white spot or a lot of hard edges is where I technically, or typically I should say, use a blender pencil to bring those colors together, to brighten them up, and to eliminate the white spot. Because when you eliminate the white spot and bring those colors together, it makes a better visual image. So they did combine nicely with the blender pencil. They did eliminate the white spot with the blender pencil. Now technically the blender pencil is something that a lot of people use in this fashion. This is they have different types of blender pencils. They have ones that are based with a wax base, and they have ones that are based with an oil base, just like your typical pencils. There is also such a thing as a burnisher. The burnisher will blend things together. However, if you go over a picture with a burnisher, basically what you're doing is you're killing the tooth of the page. You won't be able to get any more color on this area. Where with the blender, if you do it light enough, you will be able to continue to add color. Not as much if you didn't blend it at all with the products. But as you can see here, I can go over this and no blue is being added because that pigment is pushed down as far as it can go into the page. Okay, so let's reiterate here. No water. Water does not move it. So it's dry now and it's still perfectly there. They do smudge a little bit. The blue and the red smudged a little bit. The yellow didn't smudge at all. They don't blend to create extra colors as easily as I would like them to, but they do create, as you can see, you can definitely see there's a red, an orange, a yellow, a green, and a blue. It took a lot of work to get there though. And you can blend them with a blending pencil, and a burnisher will of course eliminate that white spot. And you can get a little bit of that edge off with your blending pencil. You can still see the transition lines quite heavily though. So a lot less in this one, but in this one you can definitely see those transition lines. All right, so that is the Jasart additions. So let's take a look at the Jasart regular pencils. Just going to put these back into their spots so that I don't forget where they came out of. Like I said, these are not numbered or named. On the Jasart or Jasco website, they do have a swatch chart that does give you the color names of the 72 set. I don't know if it does for the 12, but I will have to see if I can find it so that I can name all my pencils. But technically I probably won't even use the color names because of the fact that it's really difficult for me to fit them on my swatch charts, because I usually just go by color number. I can't get this one closed. Sitting here fiddling with it trying to get it closed and it's just not closing, and you know, I don't even know why I'm fiddling with it. So now we're going to go into the 72 set and we're going to grab a yellow. So we'll grab this one here and we'll grab a red. So we'll grab, let's see, where's that swatch chart? Oh, under me. I'm using it, aren't I? So I want to make sure that I get the same kind of tones. So I'm going to put this up to here and we're going to go here. Not that one, but this one. And then we're going to grab a blue. We want a dark blue, so I think this one here. All right, so we've got a yellow, a red, and a blue. I'm going to put this over here. Now these ones here, they are all an hexagonal shape. And once again, they don't have any names or numbers on them. They do have the Jasart color information there, as well as the dipped ends that give the color there. Now I'm not going to sharpen these. We're going to test them unsharpened, and then we'll test them sharpened. So let's do the yellow. Now these ones, I do find that they are a lot drier I guess is the word. They do give a bit more of a scratch than the other ones. So I don't know, with them saying that it's an addition to the set for those other colors, I'm not sure if they're composed of the same blends, if that makes any sense. Like I said, I don't have a lot of information on the product. I have read through their information the best way I can, and with just getting them the other day as quickly as I could. They are sold by a company uh, in Australia, and they are purchasable, I do believe, online, but I don't know if you can purchase them here in the US and have them shipped. If you have a friend in Australia, give them a call. Maybe they'll send them to you. If you have a friend going to Australia, give them a call. Maybe they'll bring them home for you. But I don't know if they're readily available here in the US. Okay, so I put down the colors. Let's give these a sharpen. So as you can see, this one here is really, really, really short. I did have a couple that fractured in transport, and this is one of them. So I'm needing to give it a little bit extra love. So as you can see, it gets to a nice sharp point. I like my pencils nice and sharp. I know sometimes you end up breaking them if they're too sharp, and sometimes you don't. These are a wax-based pencil, so I should probably back off on the sharpness a little bit, just because with them being a wax-based pencil, you tend to push a little bit harder on them. All right. So there we have our pencils all nice and sharpened. We've put down our colors here. So let's grab our water. And they are slightly different colors, of course. They're not going to be exactly the same. So let's drag this down. And nothing. Drag this down. Well, it's moved a little bit, but it's pooling. It's not running horribly. The red, however, is a lot more liquid. So the reds in the original set are not as water resistant as the reds in the additional sets, in the addition sets. The blue moved a little bit, but the yellow didn't move at all. But unlike the no, that one pools. Unlike the top section here, they didn't pool as much. The yellow pooled quite a bit, but the blue and the red didn't seem to pool as much as the additional sets. Okay, so let's test for smudging. And now this one I'm going to pull downwards because those ones I pushed up. So this one I'm going to pull down. And let's do a yellow. So there's 1, 2. These do seem to work a lot nicer once they are sharpened. And they do feel a little bit waxy when you rub your finger over it. But the yellow did move a little bit. So let's try the red. Try not to break the tip, of course. And rub it off. and it moves quite a bit. Even the pigment itself shows more deterioration than this one, and it may be because I put more pressure on this one. So let's do that again with a little bit more pressure. So I think that's about as covered as the other one was. So even with as much coverage, it's still moving quite a bit, but it's not fracturing as much as it was showing earlier, before I added more color. So basically I'm trying to make sure that I put the same amount of color down, but I used a heavier hand on those because they are softer. I'm a little bit concerned with these ones putting a heavy hand on them because they are drier and they feel a little bit more brittle. Okay, so the blue moves just a little bit, not yeah, about the same as the blue here. The red moves a little bit more than the red there, and the yellow moves more than the yellow here. Both not a whole lot. Okay, so let's try our blend. So let's start with the red. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to blend these colors together to create orange and green from the red, yellow, and blue. Now, like I said, if these are a wax-based pencil, you can be heavier handed with them and have them mush together. So seeing the red moving into that orange and turning that yellow a bit orange tells me that these are a bit of a musher. And then we're going to do the same thing with the blue and bring that blue into the yellow to create that green. Like so. So as you can see, I'll just go over it one more time with the yellow, both over the red and the blue, just to get that color saturation there. Make sure that I'm not missing any lines. And as you can see, the orange and the green are there. However, they're definitely not as dark or as light as they could be, especially if you had it, more layers and whatnot. You can definitely go over this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until you get to the color you want. But with it being a wax-based pencil, you should be able just to combine them, I guess. I've never had a lot of success with wax-based pencils that combine that way. So let's see if we can get the graduation. So here's the blue. Gotta lighten my hand here so that we have something for the other color to grab hold of. Then we're going to grab our red. Doesn't make a really good purple. And then we'll grab our yellow. Okay. So I think this set up here combines a little bit nicer. Let's try a blending pencil on it. See if we can combine the pigments to eliminate the harsher lines. And actually see if the colors take. So I am able to cut down on the line a little bit. Definitely not as much as I'd like to, but this one here, it seemed to work about the same with the blending pencil. So let's burnish it, see if we can add any more color. Now typically after burnishing you shouldn't be able to add any more color. And as you can see, I can't change that color at all. So it burnishes quite well and it's very smooth. The blends are about the same. You get the same amount of pigmentation change between the two different colors, or two different sets, two different parts of the set, I guess it would be. And you know, of course, we've got our smudge ability here, which is about the same. And unfortunately, in the tin, the colors run a little bit. So the yellow didn't run it very much at all. The blue barely any at all, but that red did pick up that water and run away with it for a little bit. This one here, the red it didn't move. None of them moved. None at all moved on that one there. So test wise, I think they've done quite well. They've smudged. The tin has moved a little bit for the reds, but the rest of them didn't. They did combine to make orange and yellow, though not to, you know, my likeness of them. Of course, they did create a dark purple and an orange. Same with up here. They did create that orange, yellow, green, blue from the red. And after layering several different layers, going over it with the blending pencil and the burnisher, I was able to completely remove any white spot in those areas. Completely burnished and blended with the blender and the burnisher to remove the white spot. See if we could graduate those into each other a little bit better. I did, you know, I don't like the way that they blended together to get that line, but they did blend together. They did create that purple. They did create the orange. Same with down here. They did create the purple and they did create the orange. I wish they blended together a little bit better between the two colors to have less of a line. There's a bit of a line here as well as a bit of a line here, and I may be able to get rid of this line here just by adding more red, but this is just with the exact same number of layers or the exact same pressure put on the pencils for both sets. Alright, now let's color with them. So that's just the initial first testing of these pencils. So we're going to actually use the tin set for the first set of um, the first set of flowers here. We're going to use the tin set. So I'm just going to put these back, put those down, and we're going to get some pinks out because I like pink. And we're going to see how well we can do a gradient effect between a light, a medium, and a dark pink. I think I'm going to grab a little bit darker of a pink. Oh no, that's all right. So a light, a medium, and a dark pink. So as you can see on the ends there, we've got a light, a dark, and a medium. So I'm going to sharpen these up because I just want to. And we're going to start with our light. Now when I think of blending with any sort of colored pencil product, whether it be a wax or an oil base, I tend to do the same thing with both because I'm used to an oil-based pencil. Is a layer. I put down a layer of the light color, and I don't try to keep my hands really heavy on the first layer. And then I gradually add the other colors and then blend it all together with the lightest color. So basically what I mean by blend it all together is combine those colors to remove any sort of white spot as well as any sort of blend or color lines, so any sort of graduation lines, that sort of thing. Alright, now we're going to go with the medium, and I'm going right over top and blending those two colors together. So you will notice that the color is lighter here than it is up here, say where I didn't put that color down. Because it's picking up and it's blending into that other color. And they seem to go together quite nicely. They are a little bit firmer and a little bit softer now that I've sharpened them. They're firmer than the other set of pencils, the extension sets that are supposed to be the extension of these. But they are, now that I've got them sharpened, they are a little bit, they remind me a lot of the Black Widows. Not as soft as the Black Widows or as smooth. They're not as scratchy as they were before I sharpened them, so. Which is typical. That's, you know, something that is absolutely normal. If you are new to my channel, you will learn that I tend not to sharpen my pencils before swatching them or testing them because most companies who sell their pencils sharpened will state that they are ready to color. So what that means to me is that those pencils, because they are already sharpened, should be able to be opened directly from the tin onto paper. And that's what I test, is if they are able to be colored directly onto the paper, or if they require that sharpening to remove any sort of buildup, or because some companies will coat their cores their tips of their cores to prevent them from breaking during transport. So it's basically just to see if there is any sort of coating on there, or if there is any misrepresentation of the ability of the pencils to be immediately used directly from the tin before sharpening, if that makes sense. If not, I'm sorry. That's just the way I do it. Alright, so now I'm just going through with that dark color, putting it into all of those little shadowy areas. Like so. It must be coming into money. I had an itchy palm. And then I'm just going to blend that into the medium tone with the medium tone just by going over it and dragging it out a little bit. Like so. I find that wax pencils aren't as pigmented as oil-based pencils. And that's just my own personal findings, you know, my opinion. Some are really pigmented, but sometimes the lower budget or student grade or whatever you want to call it aren't as pigmented. Now I'm just going over it with the peachy pink color for our highlight areas. Like so. And I think it did pretty good. Not too bad at all. It did give me a gradient effect. It does not have any really harsh lines between them. If I don't like the line here, I'll just clear it up a little bit. But between the dark and the medium, there's not really any line. Yeah, I think it did pretty good. So we're going to do the same thing again with this flower, and we're going to do light layer of the lightest color. Actually, I think this one we're just going to go a little bit heavy, and we're just going to build the color from light to dark. And then we're going to grab our light. Yeah, I'm just no good at smooshing. I'm just going to tip you guys up here a little bit. There, that's better. Just so you guys can see a little bit better. Alright, and then I will grab the darkest color here. Just put it in the very, very deepest regions of the shadow areas. Like so, and then we'll take our lightest again, I mean, and we'll blend that all together by smushing it. And that worked quite well as well. So of course you can definitely do several different techniques. I'm going to actually erase that. I'll show you one other technique that's a 3-color technique. And we're going to start with our dark first. They do erase quite nicely as well, which I did not test on the back because I didn't think of it. So I'm going to start with the dark. And then I'm going to go to the medium. And then I'm going to go to the light, which should be at the very tip of the flower, catching the light that's coming down. And there we have that gradient effect. So I think they did quite nicely on the flowers. Now we're going to switch over to, excuse me, we're going to switch over to the next set, which is the, let's see, this one here has some orange in it. So yeah, we're going to use this one. So we're going to grab this, yeah, this color and this color, and this color. So there wasn't a really dark orange in that set, but there is a darker peachy orange in the other set. So we'll use it. Again, I'm going to sharpen. Now that we're coloring with them and we have tested whether or not they work better sharpened or dull with the other set, we're going to do the same thing here. So with the other set, they worked better sharpened than right out of the box. With these ones, we're going to test that theory as well. So we've done them straight out of the box. Now let's test them with sharpening them. Alright, so let's first do a layering technique of putting down the first light layer all over the plant, flower, whatever. And these are much smooshier. They're way softer, as you can probably see with the wear down on that tip. And then we're going to work into the second layer, which is the medium, and we're going to extend that out away from the center where it's going to be darker. Like so. Like that. Did I completely miss a petal? I completely missed a petal. What is wrong with me? There we go. That's better. And then we'll put in the dark. Now I am finding that the reds in both sets are a little bit more fragile than I'm used to. Now I'm just going to go over it with this yellow and blend all those oranges together. And basically this is the smush factor. If I can smush them all together and make a nice soft transition. Now these pencils feel natural doing that, where the other, the main set, the tin part, feels a little bit unnatural doing that. It feels a little dry to do that, where these ones feel very natural to do that. Now, of course, if you find that you have little areas that don't quite have enough color, you can still go in and add a little bit more of the darkness or the lightness, depending upon your preference of what color it should be. That's the great thing about coloring, is no matter what, at the end of the day, it's your coloring. Do what you want. You know, whether I say, oh, this is the right way, or whether somebody else says, oh, no, you must do it this way, it's your coloring. They're your pencils. You do what you need to do, or what you feel is best, to get the best result from your supplies. And if it's doing what I suggest, or if it's doing what somebody else is suggesting, just make sure that you get the best results from your product. And that you have fun and color. It's always good to color. Sorry guys, needed more coffee. Alright, so this one here, we're going to do the gradual effect. So we're going to start down here, and we're going to add our dark. Now I want the light to be in this area, so I'm going to put the dark down here in the darkest areas. And then we're going to put in the medium, and we're going right into that dark area and dragging that dark out and adding the medium to it. And you can do this with wax pencils. You can also do this with oil-based pencils. It's called layering to blend. And basically I put down the layer with the darkest layer, then I'm adding another lighter layer on top of it, pulling out that dark layer to the light where I want that lightest layer to end. And then I'm going in with the medium color and just doing those folds, because with a flower there's little folds. And then for the highlight areas, I'm just going to take this lighter color and I'm just going to go right into that medium color and drag it out into the light areas, like so. Okay. And then we'll switch on over to the main camera, because we've been doing this for an hour. So let's just take a look at what we have here so far. So as you can see with both sets, this is the tin, and you get a really beautiful color combination between that nice rosy pink and the ivory peachy pink there. And then of course with the additional sets here, which I feel are a little bit waxier. They're more of an they have more wax binder in them, than the other set because they are much softer and they do smoosh a lot better than the ones in the tin. But they do smoosh. So the difference between smoosh and layering to blend, as far as I'm concerned, in what I mean when I say something like that, is because I still layer to blend with my wax colored pencils. I don't only smush with them. Sometimes it's fun just to smush, and wax based pencils are the best for that. But what I mean by layer to blend is putting down one layer, putting another layer on top of it, getting those colors to exactly where I want them to be, and then taking the lightest color of the blend and going over it all, bringing it all together into a full blended picture. That's what I did here, here, well, not here, but here and here. This is a tip to tip blend. Basically what I've done is I've taken the dark, I brought it up to where I wanted the light to be, extended it out just a little bit with a little bit of a flare, put down the medium right over top of that flare and into your dark, put out a little bit of a flare, and did my light. So that's what I call a tip to tip blend, where you just you flare it out just a little bit, add another color, flare it out just a little bit, add that color. It gives you the ability to help your page eliminate that hard blend line. For my first impressions of the Jasart colored pencils, the tin pencils, the pencils in the tin, they are, once you sharpen them, fairly nice pencils. The reds do run a little bit with water, well, quite a bit with water. The blues just run a little bit, the yellows not much at all. They do smudge, but they do also blend together or combine together to create other colors. They do take a lot more layers to create those colors than I am used to, or than I prefer. Once sharpened, they are a lot smoother than they are before you sharpen them. They are a much harder pencil, in my opinion, than these ones here. These ones here in the little packets, I have found doing my testing that they are water resistant, where these ones are not. They do smudge a little bit, but not as much as these ones. And they do blend quite, combine into other colors just as nicely as these ones do. Those are just my first impressions. Like I said, they are quite nice together in a full set. And I will combine them. Unfortunately, they do not have numbers or names on them. However, the Jasart company does have a swatch chart that shows the color and the color name. I find those very hard to figure out because the colors always look different to me on camera, on the screen, than they do on the page. So sometimes I find it really difficult to figure that coloring and combination out, especially if I have moved pencils around, because that happens. All right, so as a first impression, I think they're really nice, and I think combined they will make a really, really nice set. And definitely a colorist or a coloring perspective on them. They do work quite nicely for what I would be using them for. I will have to try them in a coloring book as well as well, I have tried them on cardstock. This is 67-pound cardstock, and they do work quite well on the cardstock. I will try them in a book, and I will finish the coloring here at the bottom of the chart when I have finished moving all the colors together in the family order that I want them in. All right. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I know it's a long one. I have been long-winded lately. If you want to support the channel, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. That is the most important and best way possible to support the channel. If you feel that you want to financially support the channel, you can definitely do so by hitting the join button below the video. That does take you to my memberships, and the perks for membership are all listed there with the different tiers. If you want to join us over on Facebook, feel free to do so. Just make sure that you fill out the application form in full, and one of my administration staff will get you in there. Administration team, can't really call them staff, I don't pay them. My administration team will get you in there as quickly as possible. Other than that, guys, always remember to relax, color, and stay safe. Thank you so much for watching. You have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye for now.